Hi, I'm Ignatius Creegan, and this is Poulsen. She's an apprentice at Ignatius Hats, and Allie's going to pull a felt hat. Is this the first time you've done it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, this is a practice felt. So we'll practice with wool, and then we'll move on to fur at some other point. But this is the block we're going to start with. It's a little cap fascinator, and it has a little strap built in. So we'll kind of capture that and cut that out later. But we'll start with the felt on the steamer. And that's been there for a little while, so we just make sure it's warm. We'll see a little steam coming through that. And as soon as that comes out, you'll look at your block and you get a little lift. Raise it a little bit and then pull that from front to back.
Oh, from front to back?
Keep going.
Okay.
No, you're doing it right. That is kind of a tough felt. First stretch is easier.
Ooh.
There you go.
Because of the gym.
So that's a pretty easy pull. You remember your little strap is back here, so you want to pull
Ooh, we have one
this
viewer.
into shape. So we'll start with this, and you'll steam with the iron. The iron is hot or steam. It's under pressure, so it's 15 or 20 degrees hotter. And so what you can pick it, yeah, go ahead. You can pull that whole thing around just like you already did. Yeah, take this off so you can see it.
Oh, wow, yeah, you
Yeah.
can see it start to...
And then pull the sides just so you get a nice tight pull. Okay. Now you want to stretch this out, and you're going to be pulling like this. So you want to get that nice and hot and get it ready. I like to kind of hold it here and pull like that. So you got to be quick with the steam too. You get that hot, and as soon as you do that, pull it.
Okay.
So we have one viewer. So you want to...
Yeah, and so just a little piece of it. I mean, you want to concentrate on a little area. And when you're steaming, you can go slow. You don't have to, I mean, you can move the iron slow. You want to saturate that with, get it wet with steam.
Okay.
You want to tell us how you collected all these blocks?
Every now and then I get a phone call saying this place is going out of business and they have, I don't know, 100 blocks or so. Do you want them? And if it's at all possible, I'll always take them. The first place was Jacques Isler, which was a Swiss manufacturer in New York. I thought they'd be there forever, but like most of the places in New York, they've gone out of business. But they started my collection with 100 or so blocks, and they were the ones that were picked over, and I thought, this doesn't look like much of a collection, but it turned out to be a beautiful collection. I still use some of them. And a lot of them, though they're small, are really elegant, beautifully designed blocks that I would, at some point, enlarge or copy, send this to another block maker or make it myself in a bigger size. This I actually enlarged so it's big enough for me, and it was a pretty small hat block. But this was one of the original blocks. We've just gotten a collection that this is included with of 400 blocks, and it was the entire collection. Okay, so you'll start with a pin in the back. So there's a little rope line here. Okay, you put that in the middle of the rope line.
Okay.
And you want to put a little steam in. This is actually a pretty easy block, so you wouldn't necessarily need to steam it. But for the, we'll just as a
Demonstration.
yeah, that's the way we normally do things. Just like steam half of it, and then pull your line around. Actually, you're going to want to pull it here and then pin it, because this has a inside curve, and so that pin will have to stay there. So you want your pins, it's not in a great place, but you want your pins handy. Okay, you know you're going to need one, so let's just pull one over here. Actually, we can probably pull this little tray here. Okay, so go ahead and steam that.
So, how old are most of these blocks?
Most of the blocks were made between 1900 and 1945. The hat business went into a depression in 1945, after World War II, or during World War II, really. What happened in a funny way is the hats got smaller and smaller. With the war, there were material shortages, so they started making smaller felts, and you couldn't buy, lots of yards of fabric. So hats got smaller and smaller and smaller, and they were sort of fascinator-sized miniature hats, and then they disappeared. And they were gone, for all practical purposes, for 60 years. So in that time period, the milliners died, the hat block makers died, almost all the institutional knowledge left, the business in human form, and the only information left are these hat blocks. The hat blocks tell you what a good milliner thought was a good hat. You didn't make a hat block. You didn't have somebody carve your block if it wasn't a good style. So these are the proven styles of the milliners from between 1900 and 1945.
Is it really hard to come across these blocks or get them made? Blocks made? Are there a lot of hat blockers?
It's rare to find a good collection of hats. It's rare to find a hat block just in an antique shop. You can still find some on eBay.
And there's not really a lot of people who are making them either,
Very
right?
few people making them. There are a couple people. I mean, they say there are four hat block makers in the world. One of them is in Paris. There's a great one in England. We have quite a few of their blocks, Boone and Lane. If you turn around, you'll see aluminum blocks. The aluminum blocks heat up like an iron, and they'll dry the felt real quick, or the straw. Okay, so here we are with a nice pull. One thing we try to do is get a good tug on that, but this seems like it's fine. My guess is it could be a little tighter, but
Yeah.
it really seems like it'd be just fine. If it were fur felt, it would be doughy. It's a much softer, easier thing to pull. So the last part we want to do here is make sure that this is our strap here.
Okay.
And so we want to pull
Flat.
this whole area, pull that down straight, and we should be able to get a rope line in there too. Okay. So you want to start with a pin and a cord on the ready. Okay. So we're just about finished that. You get the idea. Some blocks are really hard to pull. They're extreme shapes. Some of them are easier. It's the beginning point. Once you pull your felt, then you can shape it by hand, and the trimming is the second most important part. The sculpture is dictated by the hat block, and the art is in the trimming.